my other idea was for the PulseX token to basically vote on it, right? So normally, we look at the screenshots, and now we're looking at Phantom and Boo and XBoo, right, for guidance on what did Richard mean. And we're probably going to go closer to that route, is my assumption, because it's something that's already working. It makes sense. They can copy it, copy the functionality, and we know it works. But when you're voting with the PulseX for these incentive tokens to see which pools you're going to incentivize, that's kind of like an input of how to add the incentive tokens, right? How to pass them out.
Right. Like which
what I-
projects? Which projects we want to
which project-
liquidity in?
what liquidity pools, and I would assume that there's going to be a majority of those should be something that's paired with Ethereum. You're going to want to pair, you're going to want to incentivize people putting Ethereum up against something on Pulse chain, right? So PRC20 versus an ERC20, right? Whether that's Ethereum versus Pulse or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Just something from the Ethereum blockchain and something from that's native to the Pulse chain. But my other idea that I have is maybe, so that's an entry point of how to get the tokens. Maybe we can have a vote on how to get rid of the tokens, right? So that's like an entrance. Now I want the exit. And so the exit could be maybe the fixer bot, if it's got all these extra tokens, if it didn't, fill the PulseX DEX with all that liquidity at first, if it's still got 98%, 99% of the tokens left over, then maybe we can basically pair that with a liquidity pool, or the incentive token, in a liquidity pool, right? Let's say it's a custom, we could probably make a custom liquidity pool that only the fixer bot could add to, right? And then every week or month or whatever it is, you could vote with your PulseX tokens to set up a liquidity pool for the incentive token and another token, another PRC20 token, right? And so this adds an incentive for you to hold on to the incentive token. It's like, well, what are you going to do with it now, right? Are you just going to dump it? Maybe, right? Are you going to try to just stake it, do the single staking, or whatever? Maybe, okay, that's fine. But I think a larger fundamental is kind of this game mechanic where you're kind of playing the liquidity pool lottery almost, right? Where, okay, 1 week it's some shitcoin paired liquidity thing, who cares? Whatever. I don't want it. I'm not going to buy it up. But maybe someone with that PRC20 token that was shit is going to basically swap it and say, yeah, I want to get out. The liquidity, the natural liquidity pool for this token has went to shit. But now, the fixer bot or the DAO has set up this new liquidity pool with this other ratio that's maybe beneficial to me, where I can buy up the incentive token. And I'm going to go and send all my shitty tokens, trade it for the incentive token, right? And then maybe the next week, it gets voted and the incentive token is paired with Hex, right? And then everyone's like, yeah, great, I got all these incentive tokens, let me just sell them for Hex, right? So it's something that you actually want, right? So it's the opposite. And in that regard, you have this kind of bait that you always want to hold on to it because you never know what you're going to get, right? Maybe the next week it's going to be something that you're really interested in that you think has value, and it gives you, some kind of an extra liquidity pool, whether it's at a favorable ratio or whatever. And I think that might be an interesting game mechanic to look more into, right? I don't know if anything that uses that kind of game mechanic because we haven't had a fixer bot that can basically go in and buy everything up on the network, right? The live network, before anyone else can. But then you also have to think of the long-term effect. Okay, once we go through, let's say all the PRC20 tokens that the fixer bot bought up, how does that work long term, right? How does that work with new projects that are launched on Pulse chain? And how does it get those tokens so that it can maybe put it in those liquidity pools at a later date? And every time you're basically setting up one of these liquidity pools, you're giving more value to these PRC20 tokens, right? And the way I started this was basically saying, hey, you shouldn't give too much value to the PRC20 tokens at the beginning, right?
Right.
So it would be a question of
Pulse. Instead of putting it up directly against Pulse, you can put it up against a reward token.
Yeah, and then it'll still affect the system as a whole, right? In the end, but it'll be a question of are you okay with giving out this bonus over a long period of time, or do you really just want to just crush it at the beginning, let it settle, figure out a price within the first month, and then kind of go up from there. So you have to weigh, is this game mechanic worth it for giving more value of the system out over time? What that means
keeps things moving. It's not very stagnant then. Stuff will be moving. PulseX will be swapping using this.
Yeah, go ahead. The other thing it means is the people who don't know about Pulse Chain right now, but find out in 6 months, maybe a year, right? Who are like, shit, I missed the first 5 minutes of Pulse Chain launch, so I don't get any value from all these tokens that I held back in the day, right? Maybe I was a dolphin in some coin, and I didn't know Pulse Chain was launching. Like people didn't know that, people didn't know the sacrifice for Pulse Chain was happening originally, right? 6 months later, we find out we get like 10 times more the adoption, right? So people might be a little jaded if they find out in 6 months to a year that, oh shoot, this whole thing happened, nobody told me about it, and I get nothing for these tokens that I held, right? I should have been able to get some value. They would have been worth X, and now they're worth a few pennies, maybe not even worth it to bridge it out or whatever, right? But so what this would do is it would be a fundamental over the entire length of Pulse Chain for these different communities. So let's say Mana or Sand decided, hey, you know what, we're tired of running our own stupid blockchain and having it anchored to Ethereum, kind of in the back end. Why don't we go to Pulse Chain? Let's do the jump. Let's go to Pulse Chain. Let's make the move. They change the front ends to deal with Pulse Chain, all that stuff, right? And at that point, we could say, hey, yeah, let's incentivize you guys to come over here, right? And we'll incentivize this pool now. And then all those people are going to come and say, yeah, here you go. Here's some tokens. We'll give you kind of a little a jump start, kind of, right, into getting some extra value in the system. Kind of like a what's that called? Where you take the paddles to the heart, right, of Pulse Chain or of your heart rate. Yeah, I mean, like a defibrillator type thing, right? Like you can kind of, it's almost like a defibrillator to that token or that.
So is there going to be ads on top of the webpage then saying this coin is coming soon? Get in.
Yeah. So then you can do, and basically this idea kind of comes from Binance back in the day. I remember back in 2017, every month, Binance had a different coin, right? And they're trying to see who could buy that, so much of the coin, and the top people won X amount of, or they won a Ferrari or this or that or whatever it was, right? And And so it kind of leans towards that kind of this persistent advertising and kind of FOMO for the projects.
Right, right. Let's have the battle to get people the meme coins or the excitement, the FOMO going. Yeah.